Hey everybody, and welcome to Virtual Vines. I'm Dan Mackey with the Loaded Grape. TC Fraizer from Tryon.
Just getting all buttoned up,
Yes, yeah.
You're
looking,
it's not the 9 o'clock show just yet.
No,
it's
not the 9 o'clock.
It's still sexy. It is still sexy. So you gotta keep at least one button on. I see you. I'm already just. I know Nashville's hot. The hot chicken.
Yeah, the hot chicken and everything. Just got back from Nashville.
I know.
I had a great time belatedly celebrating my 40th birthday, even though I turned 41 in April. It was one of those, like, we booked the trip and now we went. But we have a fun show in store for you tonight, and that is we're going to talk about wines that come from islands.
Island wine,
right? We're talking about the terroir of the islands, and I think we've found some really, 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 really fun islands to pull from as well. But we're going to start off. We're going to start off with a couple of announcements like we always do. First thing being that we still have some space for the wine and cheesecake pairing coming this Sunday. Okay. The one that has more space is the 1 to 2:30 slot. The 3 to 4:30 slot is almost sold out, so not a lot of space left there. And then we also have a South African wine tasting coming up that's got availability, and there's also duckhorn tasting for Dad just before Father's Day. So take Dad and do a special duckhorn tasting with the wine rep, regional wine rep for duckhorn coming to do that tasting. And next week, live audience for Virtual Vines in the wine shop. Live audience, going to be a lot of fun, and you can purchase tickets to come to the tasting and taste along with me and TC, and we'll grab in some of our audience members to be a part of the show and talk about what they think of the wine and how they think it should pair.
Maybe we need to figure, and this is, he's already like, damn, TC, why do you got to say these things? But maybe if there's a way where people could download an app and maybe vote what they think, and overall,
I'll see if I can figure. I can see if I can figure that out.
Let me see a survey. Got a little survey.
We might be able to do something like that. Let me see if I can figure out some technology to do that during the show. But if you want to be a part of the tasting, you can actually sign up tonight. It's right on the events page. So $12 for non-members, $10 for members, and you'll be able to enjoy the tasting in the shop and be a part of the show with the wines that we're going to grab for that show. So a lot of fun. So if you want to be,
might be some prizes in there. We may throw a little curveball in there. So
Michelle is the winner from last week, so she's getting the bottle that you offered us.
Sweet.
She ordered the most. So Michelle, you're going to be getting. You're going to be getting that bottle. But let's start with tonight's tasting. Let's get into this. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. And we're going to start in Tasmania.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about island wines, you're just like, guys, I kind of figured you might do Sicily or Australia. Now we're going to go. We're going to dig. We're going to dig dive. The B side, the deep cuts tonight.
The deep cuts, the B side. We've got it going on.
Because really, I would say out of everything that we're having tonight, most of you would probably have had wines from maybe New Zealand, but we're going to do Corsica, Sardinia, and Tasmania, as Danny just said. And this is actually just a beautiful representation, not only of what Tasmania is doing right now, which is mostly sparkling, but quite frankly, I would put this against comparable to even more expensive sparkling wines on the shelf. This would come out time and time again. I could care less about the wine publications, but just across the board from every WS wine and spirits, always gets between 90 to 94 points every year. This is a cuvee of all the traditional champagne grapes. So we're talking Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Pinot Meunier. It's also a blend of multiple vintages as well. So what people have to kind of understand is you think of Australia and Tasmania being south of there, all their cold air comes from the south. So Tasmania being, the southernmost of any part of that region, naturally Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, earlier ripening, thin-skinned grapes do best. And right now, there's a little area called the Piper Valley where people are making strides and a lot of investments. As a matter of fact, this one, when it was founded, was made an investment with Roederer. As a matter of fact, they called it Hembrook, which was the name of the ship of the Dutch explorer that founded the island in like the 1685 or whatever. I think it was Albert Janzoek Tasman was his name or something like that. But I think you Google me on that. I think I'm not too far off on that. But a really fun representation. And again, when you see the area, you talk about how not only remote, because it's not only an island, but it's an island that's super rugged, there's no infrastructure. I mean, to say there are roads are usually one-way roads where you basically have to take four-wheel drives, and just like the wine we're talking about from Corsica night, where you think about it, when we're going to make a winery there, you're not making a cheapo Prosecco, because you can't, because you're not making big bulk wine. You're making wine of substance, as you said, terroir. So again, this just speaks of just that, when we talk about on the show, there's often a river or a lake that you being from New York, obviously lakes and riverbeds are abundant up there. I mean, the Finger Lakes, right? And oftentimes the best wine comes from areas that have some sort of regulation from the water, right? And that can kind of offset the heat that often you get. But when you think about the biggest water source, aka the ocean, when you're a true island, it's the best. I mean, you have high rugged hill cliffs, so you have maximum photosynthesis, aka sunshine, but you also don't get overheated because you're no more in Tasmania. I want to think, no more than probably 10 to 20 miles in any direction from the sea line, right? So very, very temperature controlled. So again, guys, I know we did this once upon a time, probably one of the first wine clubs or first tastings, maybe 2-3 years ago.
Oh gosh, for
our dinners, I think it might have been a dinner.
We made a dinner or
something.
We did. Yeah, one of the first dinners.
We did some wines we don't even carry anymore, but it's going to be a sad day if ever this does go. But there's only like 11 or 12 wineries there. Some are making still Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. I've only had a chance to try a few because there's only a dozen or so wineries there. But Jan's is really one of the preeminent ones. I'm going to take what I say with a grain of salt. But Jan's, again, when I first tried this, I was like, all right, a wine from Tasmania. Okay, kind of cool label, but how good can it be? And I was drinking it, and I was like wanting to hate it. I mean, I was giving it like the Gordon Ramsay, this isn't risotto. And I'm coming out, and I'm like, I'll call the brand manager. Hey, like what? I'm like, this is perfect.
So good.
It's like when you see Hell's Kitchen, not sure if they're going to say, which one. But this right here, again, guys, you can live like a king or queen without paying a king or queen's ransom, because Jan's often, as a matter of fact, I did a dinner last Thursday, al fresco. I did the rosé. Of all the wines we showed that night, this was the one we sold the most of. I'm telling you guys, it's easy. Put a few bottles in your cart. Put a few bottles in the fridge.
Actually, we don't have a lot.
We don't have a lot. I mean,
so when I say few, we got like 7. Few bottles means 7, and that'll be all the bottles we have. Until Vanna tries it tonight, and basically she'll say 6 or 5 or whatever else, right? Right now it's definitely This is the one of the night that is extremely limited. So if you're the bubbles into sparkling, this is your bottle. Don't wait, don't hesitate, hop on it quick. Again, there's only 7 bottles to be had tonight, so this wasn't one that we had a huge offering of.
And I have a little bit of the rosé, so if you're like Bob Ross, you can't paint one tree, it needs a friend. So if you're only able to get a bottle or 2 of this, I do have a little bit more of the rosé. It's the same price. So Danny would be able to honor that as well. So if you guys want to put a bottle or 2 of the rosé in the cart, or maybe take a bottle,
or if you want the rosé, just throw it in the comments. I can make sure that happens.
That is a beautiful one too. So, but again, guys, this is a blend, and I get like honeysuckle, like a little bit of definitely some citrus. A little bit of this like brioche, more like this butter brioche. You don't get that kind of dry toast as much as you get, but definitely more of that kind of creamier brioche kind of thing.
This is very creamy, as in that yeasty flavor than that.
I've only had a sip, and I'm looking down. I'm like, man, I thought I already had like a half a glass because it just lingers so much. And very fine bubbles, aged on the lees for over 3 years, like all the finest non-vintage champagne guys for a third of the price. And again, for all your bubble aficionados that have had everything from everywhere, you can rest assured Tasmania is probably not an area on their radar. And once you try it, you're going to be seeking them out. And I got to tell you, there's not many to be had on the market currently. So the Jan's, from what I've had, I think it's one of the best representations. And, again, I can say get your hands on it. We do get some from time to time. So if we do happen to run out, let Danny know. We can put a wish list together, because I know this is something once you guys try, you're going to want more of.
So good. This is, I tell you, this is
layered texture,
complexity.
Put a back around this.
This would be, I would
easily.
No one would think drinking this that's from Tasmania. That's the thing about it. It is so like
Well, and I get that they
Tasmania.
and I get they wouldn't call Tasmania, but I think even more still, if you had other quote unquote more I don't say reputable or areas that have been doing sparkling wine for longer, people are going to say, "Wow, this is as well made, if not better." For all these other wines, and then when you start putting out, like certain, orange and yellow iconic labels, you're gonna be like, wait a minute, that's like a third of it's like way better for a third of the price, right? So this is just something that I think is just it's bursting at the seams, waiting. I think the people that know in town, there are a few little spots here and there that know, and I'd like to make more converts, especially tonight, guys. So again, if you're Bubbles, even if you're like waiting, you're like, guys, all right, let's get into the reds. Just put a bottle or two of this in your cart. I promise you.
There's not many. There's not many. We're talking 7.
I could put my
seven
seal
bottles
of approval and stamp on it. I'll go ahead and say right now, if you guys bring it home and absolutely do not love it, bring whatever you have left back to Loaded Grape, and I'll replace it somehow, because I believe that much in this bottle. You're going to absolutely love this
really,
bottle.
really good. Normally on the shelf at 25, we have it down as a deal special of 23 tonight. Plus, if you are in our wine clubs, be sure to use your the coupon code at checkout. So Cellar, Estate, Reserve. Reserve works for both the Reserve Club and the Grand Reserve Club, and you'll get your member level discounts on top of the sale price. So for some folks, you're going to be looking at barely $20 to get this bottle. That's a really
and frankly,
deal.
guys, there's some there's some Proseccos out there. There's some Cavas. I mean, and again, Champagne certainly can't touch it. But even Cremant de Loire's higher end sparkling wines from California, we mentioned Rotorua and things like that. You're not going to touch that with this price point right here. So this is just unbelievable quality and juice for the price.
I'm going to show that bottle one more time so everybody knows what the bottle is right there. Again, only 7 of these, so don't miss out. This is the true ticker of the wine QVC that we do, is that there's only 7. So
while supplies are
why
lasting, I'm sure.
Supplies last,
and we'll have Vanna going, oh, we only have a few more left. But guys, that is I think we could probably just we'll definitely bring that back when we get some more at some point down the road
for an event or something.
Yeah, something like that, because that's just a fantastic line. So anyway, moving on to our island theme and one of your favorite, obviously, enclosures.
So it's a Stelvin enclosure, folks.
Love it.
We gotta love a beautiful Stelvin enclosure. This one right here is actually one of my picks for the night, because when we start talking about islands, we cannot not talk about New Zealand, and specifically Marlborough, for a Sauvignon Blanc, a 2020.
Yep. So fresh off the boat, as they say, right?
Yeah, because we're the growing regions are a little bit ahead of us on the growing regions, and this is Nautilus, and this is one we have in the shop, out of the shop, in the shop, out of the shop. This is just one that I'm going to tell you, it always over delivers for the price. Over delivers. For the price. I've never not had this. This is your typical New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. It's going to have the grapefruit. It's going to have the citrus. It's all going to be there, and you can just smell it in the glass as soon as you get your nose to it. But tonight, normally on the shelf at 17, down to 15 plus your club discounts.
There you go.
Do not sleep on this for those folks that want to, basically, as I slammed down a bottle, I didn't need to do that.
So you mean that?
I mean, this whole show, it's that time of year again. So guess what? It's a porch pounder. It's a porch pounder. That's what this is. So if you're looking for a nice white New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc to pull out while you're sitting on the porch on those evenings right now where it's gorgeous out now, especially after the rain today, it's gorgeous out there. This is the bottle. This is the one that you want to get. I'm going to let TC go more into about the producers.
Yeah, well, no, it's just not. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you could definitely pick worse New Zealand style Sauvignon Blancs, and as Danny was kind of mentioning, when you think about more cool climate versus warm climate, I think that's ultimately what we're deciphering here, right? So, New Zealand, their climate, obviously very maritime to slightly Mediterranean, but obviously very maritime and more than say 50 or 60 miles away from the ocean at any given point. So the northern part of the island was really the first to experiment with vinifera about 60, 80 years ago. And Sauvignon Blanc is the great varietal vinifera from the old world that really took shape. And by the, I'd say the mid to late 80s, they were kind of turning some heads, winning some competitions, because the styles of Sauvignon Blanc were either more this very kind of mineral slate, kind of smoky driven from France, Loire Valley, to this kind of more citrus, bigger, bolder, honeysuckled, riper California style. So all of a sudden New Zealand comes out with because their grow season, even though they're, as Danny mentioned, this is a 2020, so they're 6 months ahead of us, they actually are picking very, very earlier in their season. So we're talking February. That would be like August for us, like, very, very early in the grow season, at least for grapes. And what that does is you leave this kind of green note, and you don't have very high sugar levels. So therefore, most New Zealand Sauv Blancs are in that 10 to 12 range to some degree.
This was actually 13.
13. Okay. So the great thing about this is, being on that area, I mean, they can, well, of course, they always give them a 1.5 difference, but typically speaking, you get something from Napa Valley. We're talking 13.5, sometimes 14%. So I guess that's ultimately, what you'd see. But Nautilus kind of provides a well-structured balance. Like, certainly it's got that green note, it's got that dried herb, it's got that kind of fleshy, maybe pink grapefruit, maybe pith of a grapefruit kind of style, maybe slight kind of gooseberry, as they say, but ultimately a very well-structured, very well-made wine. As an aside, one thing I can say, about 3-4 years ago, we did a supplier tasting with a gentleman that does most of our Australia imports. We're talking like Wira Wira, Jim Barry, Ringbolt, which we did last week, which that seemed to be a very big hit for you guys, Yolanda. Anyway, Nautilus was a wine that he was very keen on, had a lot of accolades, and was telling me about them. And unlike some of the bigger, sort of the Kim Crawfords of the world that obviously started off small, like most of them, and went sort of ginormous and are sourcing from wherever they can in New Zealand, these guys have really remained tried and true to their roots. And as he says, we can only understand the vintage from year to year, kind of and tweak it and see what we do. And so after about 30 or so, 35 years now, he broke out some old vintage Sauvignon Blancs. So we're talking, at the time, this was 2014, so we're talking 2007. So we're talking 7-year-old Sauvignon Blanc. Typically from New Zealand, you think, okay, this is just here today, gone tomorrow, especially Sauv Blanc. Even from a modest producer, we're talking 2-3 years. It just kind of goes flat, right? Mm-hmm. This was still vibrant. You had this kind of like almost kind of, like walking into a spice shop, not like spicy, but like on the, like oregano, you get like a little of this thyme, you get a little of this kind of, maybe this kind of like spice saged, to the little ginger, maybe crystallized ginger, after a while. But a beautiful, and again, I think the ultimate goal and what I'm trying to convey here is that Nautilus, among other producers, stands head and shoulders above, because they've been doing it not only for so long, but their price point has remained consistent throughout. And so when Robert Hill Smith, the proprietor, and other people that really believed in this 34 years ago are paying dividends now, because they, to me, I think are one of the quintessential, like people said, TC, we're going to do a blind tasting. We need a bottle from New Zealand. There are certainly other grapefruit bombs, but this has the grapefruit, but it's structured. It's balanced. It's very light. It plays within the sandbox. It plays on the rails. It doesn't go to 11 on any one. No.
It's not predominantly grapefruit. Like, let's just say Twin Islands that we do. It tends to be very much predominantly grapefruit.
Yeah, and there's those designer just wines of any stripe, red or white. I think some New Zealand's, when people first got on the path, they loved the grapefruit, but I think as time grew on, that grapefruit just tended to go just amplified to the point where people go, I don't even like New Zealand anymore. And I think sales to some degree have showed that, but I think certain players like Nautilus in our portfolio or Dog Point have just remained one of the preeminent producers from New Zealand. So again, for those of you that maybe have a bottle of, say, Honig or something from Wine Club past, maybe from elsewhere, get a bottle of this, do a comparison, do a side-by-side, because you can really taste the difference when you do like that side-by-side comparison.
This would be a fun one to have friends over and say, hey, we're gonna do a blind Sauvignon Blanc tasting, where you have one from California, you have one from France, you have one from New Zealand. Maybe you grab one from somewhere else in the world, like Chile or Argentina, and really just to taste it, just to see
kind of play with it,
differences,
and make sure you have something with some nice salinity, because you think of island wine, I'm getting like this salinity right now. You know, you get this like beautiful, like kind of iodine-y kind of saltiness in the background.
There is a little bit of saltiness,
which I love. Well, and again, you know, I love oysters. I know oysters isn't everyone's thing. The next degree I would go up would be scallops. Again, I know scallops isn't everybody's thing. So then I would go like say shrimp, and I feel like most people to some degree like shrimp. But even if you don't want to do that, I think like something with like, you know, just nice bright like cilantro, lime, chopped onion, something like that. Just nice bright fresh fruit salsa, like a nice salsa verde.
I was actually thinking like a little mahi taco.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, crispy, crispy like fish taco. Or
yeah,
something like
with the cilantro on it.
A little squeeze of lime
on top, and that would be how I'd go with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And what's great about this wine, guys, is again they pick a little earlier in the season, generally speaking, so what you generally get is this more this greener note, more this like kind of white kind of grapefruit, more versus this kind of fleshier pink grapefruit that you typically get out of the like the Rumbauers or the Honigs and stuff like that. So,
well, great price on this tonight. The Nautilus Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough, New Zealand. Getting that island stuff in right now. 17 on the shelf normally, down to 15. You can get your club discounts as well, but you can head over to Loaded Grape. We do have plenty of inventory of this one. So here it is, the Nautilus, and there's the little Nautilus shell right there on the label. 2020, excellent. It's drinking really, really good. Definitely right in the line with what 2019, 2018 of what we've had in the shop before. This is really one of my favorite Sauvignon Blancs that we carry from New Zealand. It's just really,
it's
really
a great sweet price point. You know, we've done Stoneburn and Twin Islands, as you said, that are great. They may come in $1 or $2, sometimes even less than this. But I can tell you, Danny's giving you guys a fantastic price on a wine that normally should be around $20 retail. I mean, honestly, that's really where this wine is around most places that I've seen it. And certainly, obviously, say restaurants a bit more, but for $15, guys, you could do a lot worse from a lot of the areas for Sauvignon Blanc for that there. So
it is incredible. Take advantage of it. And yes, Ceviche, Alita, yes. Yes, it's. We should give a quarter every time that TC says ceviche.
Ceviche.
You say it a lot. You do say it a lot.
I love ceviche.
I know you do. And again,
I don't think I said ceviche this time. I said cilantro.
Oh, I think we went to ride the tape. You know what? I just think they watch so much.
They might watch so much. Yeah, I was going to say
ceviche.
Yeah, I think I made actually a conscious effort not to say ceviche this time because I felt like I was kind of getting ceviche'd out, you know.
Yeah, I know. All the wines ordered tonight will be available for pickup on Wednesday, so be aware of that. And again, if you're in the wine club, be sure to use your coupon code Cellar, Estate, or Reserve. You'll use Reserve for both the Grand Reserve and the regular Reserve Club to get your club level discount on that. Now, it's
a couple of Kermie items.
We couldn't, you know, we're going to the islands that we had to go to the importer of Kermit Lynch to find some of these.
Yeah, he does the digging for us. All we have to do, I mean, he sets them up, we knock them down. I mean,
that's
just,
it.
I mean, does he import a bad wine? I mean, seriously, everything that we have from him. And I know, admittedly, I mean, Danny loves wines from everywhere, and as he said, you know, he's gotten to love French more. But you got to admit, probably the area, if you do have to go France, because I know that's maybe sometimes not your first go-to, if you do go France, that Kermit Lynch book, I mean, from time to time, you're like, man, you know, there's some French wines, TC, I tried today that were like just okay, but like all the, you know, because typically it's mostly French, a little bit Italian, but, you know, he just concentrates his efforts, and his son, who basically runs the company now, on these relationships of these producers that are between, in some cases, 500 cases, but I would say on the top end, maybe 20,000 cases, 30,000 cases. So somewhere in that very, very small to like maybe slightly bigger than small wineries, mostly from France and in Italy. But tonight we're going to focus on islands. So we're going to do the two islands, main islands, as you say, that people would know of from both Italy and France. That's going to be Corsica, just to the north of Sardinia, which would be the south. So we're going to start off with a beautiful, beautiful producer, the Giacometti Patrimonio. So the Patrimonio is actually an AOC which has to include a very indigenous grape, very hard to say, called Nilasu. Again, say that 3 times fast. But they do grow some
Nilasu.
Nilasu. It's like Nieluse. So Corsican, just like other parts, when you get in that area, and we're going to talk about in Sardinia, even though they're part of Italy, has this Catalan reference, and being like Catalan, you have this almost just different language than you have anywhere else. But anyway, Giacometti is an area that is basically, it's a desert, for lack of a better word. It's dry, it's arid. There are no homes there, there are no houses there, there are infrastructures, there are no power lines. To my knowledge, there's one slightly, not, I won't say paved road, but sort of a road that's been driven on, and you definitely have to have a 4-wheel car just to be able to get there. We did with Bruce Nyers of Nyers Winery in California, who used to be a partner of Kermit Lynch for many years. We did a tasting a few years ago in Chapel Hill, and this was one of the wines that I just remember, like, he just kind of went on and on, trying to travel to the winery, because people often think, going to wineries is, oh, let's go up to the main gate and press in the button and drive up. This was like, he was like, dude, I think we may die. I mean, he's like, I don't know where we're at. My cell phone's not working. If I don't know where I know we're in an island, and I know it's like civil here, so we're not going to get entrapped. But he goes like, maybe we may die and he won't find us for weeks on end. So Patrimonio is what they say on the label, which is the AOC, but that's the town that's the closest. And I would use air quotes if I have a different hand. And the reason I say that, there you go. The reason I say that is because they basically granted Patrimonio status because they do indigenous grapes like Nilasu and a few other grapes, a few international grapes like Syrah, Pinot Noir, and Vermentino, not Vermentino, a different strand. But Nilasu is a very unique grape. There's people like Oz Clark that's written about it, Jacques Robinson. They all have their own take on it. But ultimately, with Nilasu, it's a thinner skinned grape. It's an earlier ripening grape. It has higher tannins. In some cases, it can have higher alcohol, although this is 13.5. So in many, many cases, for years and years and years, even to this day, to some cases, many wineries use this varietal to make rosé because it's such an earlier ripening grape. Most people, when they make rosé, they're out there picking what comes in earliest, and then you make it rosé.
It's funny you said rosé, because I almost get like that taste profile of rosé.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, I was like, this is red. I don't know if you guys watch me. I'm smelling it because I'm like, this is different.
It's a fun wine
because it doesn't, to me, scream like typical red wine.
It's not really tannic at all. This is just a fun. You could chill it. You could totally.
I can see this chilled.
This is like, and like, I think Danny hit the nail on the head. You think about a rosé, because typically this wine is made in rosé. However, this is not, because of the area in which it's at. It's a bit higher plateaued. It's a bit more remote. It's a bit more elevated. So they think, this vineyard, because it's so hard to get to, they're like, you know what? It'd be a travesty not to let the grapes fully ripen. Obviously, we're going to cut down 20% of it before we get it in the winery, but not to make a red wine out of it. And they do just down below makes other varietals that are a little bit easier to farm, but this is kind of the quintessential varietal. And again, I think when you think of Corsica as a whole, yes, it's this varietal, but more so I think of this style. You think of Corsica as this isolated area, and when you kind of get to know them, you kind of get to know this like warm, inviting kind of thing. But it's like nothing that you've tried before, right? Because that's what I love about Corsican wine. It's so out there and remote,
so different.
But right now, I can say for all my friends, I live vicariously through, because I don't, even before COVID, get to travel as nearly as much as I'd like to. When you go to France, most of the kind of cool, hip, young wine crowd, by the way, they're drinking a lot more spirits than they used to in the past. But the ones that are drinking wine, say sub 40 years old or so, Corsica wines are the new kind of cool hip things that they're drinking, because price point, number one, because hey, we're all looking for a great deal, but you find great wines that go with so many, not only for, you could sit at a bar and drink this. You could go to a fancy restaurant and have different fish, which are very light in texture. You're like, what red wine other than just Pinot, Beaujolais am I going to do? Corsica Red. This is something that you can do.
So it's funny you brought up Pinot, because to me it does have that very close to being a Pinot Noir, little cherry.
Yeah, I was about to say black cherry kind of a thing.
Yeah, and that, because that's again that rosé, because typically you see a lot of rosé out of it.
And more on the nose too, because, but on the palate it's just so inviting. It's just like beautiful. It's got that kind of goes up with acidity. You get a little bit of the alcohol in the middle, and then it just kind of smooths off. It's like a wave. That's really what it is. It starts off, goes up, and kind of crushes, and it's a beautiful wine, guys. And I've tried a few Corsica wines that are okay. But I always say the Giacometti, when we do get it, and when we're talking about island wines, I said, hey, Danny, I know we just did Australia.
Yeah.
We could take some license and do a few other bigger islands that maybe people are being more familiar with. What are 2 areas that we're guaranteed that they're not going to try?
We don't do this show to just always rehash areas. We want to bring you new things and have you try new things. And this is one that is going to be a talk on your table. Like, where is it from? What about
people are going to stop? They're going to Wiki. I'm about to say GPS it. They're going to Wikipedia it. They're going to look online, maybe KermitLynch.com. But I can tell you where in town you can get it because we're the sole now proprietors of Kermit Lynch, and I didn't really realize that at the time when I got the email 4 or 5 years ago when we finally concealed the book, put the book together, consolidated,
constructed,
there you go. So we put it all together. I was like, wow, we just got this influx of wine that I'm still to this day, 4 or 5 years later, just digging through and reimagining. But I can tell you, when I did that lunch, not only was it legendary with Bruce Nyers, I know you guys done some like Sage Canyon or whatever. Yep. I mean, which I was one of my favorite wines. I love Sage Canyon, but Bruce Nyers, which is a hoot himself. Talked about so many great Kermit Lynch wines, but the one thing I do remember is how he just went on and on about this producer and kind of how to get there. Just this, if one thing you remember, if anything else, this wine, guys, tonight, this is the wine that's going to cast the net. It's going to get people turned on to more reds. You're going to want another bottle. This is going to be a bottle that you're going to split with your partner, your husband, your wife, whomever, and you're going to kind of look at each other and be like, I can do another glass. You need another glass, and you're gonna want that extra bottle, and because it's gonna stay good in the fridge on the counter for 3 or 4 days easily, because it's a beautiful natural wine. We've talked about it nauseum. You know, those natural wines last longer and better. Even if you're like, well, TC, if I open another bottle, it's going to be, yes, it will be good. I mean, don't stay 2 weeks on the shelf, but about a week or so, give or take, 3, 4, 5 days, depending on where you put it. Easily, this wine can be drinkable again. So, beautiful wine. Another wine that we don't have a ton of, but if you are adventurous and you're looking for some cool stuff, again, guys, sub $30. As adventurous as you can come.
This is you understand wine. It's coming from an island like over. I mean, this is not to get it for this price is a great deal. Normally on our shelf at 30 down to 28 plus your club discounts. This is one for you wanting to try something more adventurous, but not really that adventurous because again, it's right in that kind of.
The flavor profile is great. I mean,
it's light like a Pinot Noir. You can see through it like a Pinot Noir. It's just not Pinot Noir.
We can sit here and give you guys, about Corsica and then the varietal, which are great. But ultimately, I think what we're trying to convey here, if we're not too much nail on the head here, is that in terms of wine styles, in terms of the styles of wine that people like, this is going to be something, guys, that 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 people at your party, you're going to have the Cabernet here. You're going to have the reds or white, but the reds, it's going to win. I'm telling you guys, when you put this out on the shelf, you're going to look like a rock star. You're going to look like a winner because it goes with so many darn cuisines. And right now in spring, God, I went to the farmer's market this past Sunday, and then Ingram's picked some strawberries Saturday. Spring has sprung. So I'm thinking fresh, vibrant wine.
You went and picked strawberries?
Well, I mean, I got
you're about to pick a ton of blueberries, and you went and picked strawberries.
I got a big freezer now. We got a big freezer now.
Oh, my goodness.
We picked a few packs.
I would tell you right now, TC's going to be spending weekends picking blueberries soon, and he's going someplace else to pick strawberries.
That's what we do, yeah.
I love it. He's getting his fingers calloused.
At least the blueberries, I can stand up. I mean, strawberries, you got to get down.
You got to
get down for strawberries. But the blueberries, I can put on some headsets, a glass of wine, maybe a cold beer or two, and I get in the zone. And the next thing you know, I got a gallon of blueberries.
Yeah.
But
the blueberry train is.
We'll do the blueberry edition at some point when we get a little more. We'll get
great.
Full and ripe and all that.
All I know is he gave us a mason jar last year, and I was putting it on ice cream. And we were eating it, putting them in the freezer and popping them in frozen. We were doing all.
Well, and every now and then you'll get a blueberry, like guys about that. So I know we're off subject here, but maybe TC's blueberries here.
TC's blueberries, all about the tea. Maybe that's
my retirement plan.
Yeah,
I'm just going to turn all my land into blueberry farm, and I'm just going to be the old guy that my wife's going to be knitting, and I'm just going to be the guy that's have my grandkid. Hello, sir. Would you like to try a blueberry? And I'm going to teach him an English accent. I
was going to say your grandkid's English.
That kid's English. I'm from North Carolina here. It's like, hello, sir. Would you like to try a blueberry? And I'm like, wow, yeah. It's going to be Timmy. You know,
Timmy. Gonna name him Timmy because it has to be Timmy.
So, yeah, it's got to be Timmy. Timmy the fourth.
Well, go ahead. Again, we don't have a lot of inventory on this one, but it is really, really, really good. And take a flyer. Trust us on that one. Down to 28, you can get your club discounts. So if you're in the club, sure to put your cellar, estate, or reserve in the checkout and the coupon code. Let me finish this so we can pour the next one.
No, take your time. Well, and again, guys, I think with just to hit the nail in the head tonight, we didn't do Sicily because I think we did that recently in Australia as well. But when you think of great wines, and what I mean by that, because there's so many areas that can grow vines, and you can make alcohol out of anything that has sugar, and grapes certainly have it. But when you think about wines that certainly sap up not only the terroir but are great for aging, generally have some sort of a water source to them. And islands, when you think about the Grecians and then later the Romans, some of the best wines are the wines that they were talking about in ancient times were wines from islands. The Sicilian wines, southern Italian wines. Certainly, when you think about all the Grecian islands there, from
we talked about Greece. There was not a lot of in the price point for the we didn't want to go too crazy.
Maybe for another show. But I think ultimately, guys, these are some great representations of some wines that ultimately are be a little unfamiliar in terms of like, okay, where's it from? What's the varietal? But when you try these wines, they're just honest, straightforward wines that are beautifully made, and I think worth every penny. Again, at $28, guys, you're going to be very, very happy with that. Very,
very happy. And we're going to price it up a little bit more here on the next one. But now it's time to head to Italy.
Absolutely. So Sardinia. And when they first started writing, or they would make the blue zones, and that was an area where they were mapping out areas where people had a preponderance of living to well over 100 years old. Sardinia was an area that was first kind of note. Now, certainly we know of Okinawa, Japan, and things like that. One of the things that they seem to have in common, or among other things, are a diet of good fats, whether it be maybe seafood or tunas in Asia, or quite a bit. Oh, there you go, ding, ding. Or a little bit of great olive oil and some bread and some great wine. So Sardinia is that area. I always say, if you're female and you're under 5'5", and you're from Sicily or Sardinia, you're probably going to live to about 120, because that's usually what happens. It's like the smaller, more Italian, the nonas get older, and they're just like, how old is she? She's 148, but nobody knows about it. Right?
148. So
but this is the wine that will make you guys, and I'll say this has all the resveratrols and antioxidants. Don't buy all the the creams and things like that. This is something, instead of rubbing on your skin, maybe have a bath of this at night, and I can certainly reverse the aging process. So
if drinking a bottle of this makes me younger, I need like 5.
Mm-hmm.
I need like 5.
Oh my
this
God.
is so good.
And then the color for you, and see the color, guys. The last wine, the color was a little darker, but with this wine, it only comes from about a 3-acre parcel, and it is bottled a year to the date after it is harvested. So that's why it's 2019 vintage. We were able to again, have some inventory of it. But being from Sardinia, this is, again, from the northern side, a bit warmer, has a lot of Catalan influence. So they call this Cannonau. I think you can see right there, Cannonau de Sardinia. And Cannonau is the local colloquialism for Grenache, or as the Spanish would say, Grenache. And certainly one of the most unsung grapes. People know of Tempranillo. They know of Grenache, but I think as people try a lot of Grenaches, they're good ones, but when they try like Brega, they're like, damn, this is just as good as any wine, right? So I think Grenache is one of these unsung Mediterranean grapes, whether it be in Chateauneuf, which really kind of took the ball and ran with it. Grenache, you talked about Petit Verdot, one of your favorite varietals, but ultimately we've talked about it. Cinsault, we love you and I love Carignan, and one of our favorites is Grenache anything. Blended, but certainly this right here. So whenever I go out, when I used to go out without, seeing menus without clown faces on them or whatever else, right? This was the wine. If a place had a bottle of Cannonau, and usually it would be, maybe even if it was like up to $60-$70, that was about much mom would let me spend maybe on a bottle. I would usually find a great bottle of Cannonau, and people would be like, TC, what in the hell you did it again? I'm like, guys, no, I didn't do it. Like the wine guy that bought it in, kudos to that guy, because Cannonau being Grenache, I love. I would probably order the Côte d'Rône. I probably would order the Morgan Côte de whatever. But when I see Cannonau, I'm like, dude, 3 extra points for the person that put this on the list, because Cannonau is one of my favorites. Over delivers. No one knows about it. It's like sort of geeked out. It's like in this wine community thing where you see Cannonau, people want to like, okay, from Instagram, can I triple like this wine? It's just beautiful. You don't find a bad wine, especially from this area in Sardinia. I mean, beautiful layered, textured, rich. This is a fairly new parcel. This is actually younger vines. We always talk about old vines. These vines are less than 20 years old, and it's this good now.
This is a complex wine.
Oh, I buy a bottle or two of this every. I've been turned on this wine. I say circa 2014, 15. So I have a few, not a vertical, but a smattering. I don't think I have 2019, because this is a beautiful wine that's drinking great now. Always does. Yeah. But when I break out a bottle of this, people are like, TC, what did you just do? Like you just like. It's like you turn on the White Album. Nobody's ever heard the Beatles before. They're just like, dude, what is that? What is this? What is this?
Yeah. What is this Sgt. Pepper you speak of?
Stop it! Stop! You want my mind to explode?
But this, I mean, there's some complexity.
Even now, I mean, it's starting to open up even more now, guys. So.
Yeah. I almost feel like I needed to have this open up a little bit sooner.
I mean, that's like a little like this like beautiful like mahogany, almost like tobacco leaf. Yeah. You know, like you walk into this fancy rest. I mean, it just has it like this.
It does have this fancy feel about it.
Like you order lamb chops with this. You don't order the steak. You order the lamb. You order the venison. You order the elk.
This comes to the table, and you drink it. You're like, wow, that's really good. But I can imagine this with a more complex meal in front of me as well. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just had some beef short ribs for Mother's Day, guys. This would be a perfect wine with some beef short ribs and some mashers with maybe some roasted carrots or something like that. But I can tell you guys, you know, just like Corsica, just like Sardinia, just like many other parts, especially in Europe, you know, these wines are meant to be consumed with food, with company. When you drink these wines, you can see, you're like, damn, these aren't designer wines. These aren't fake wines. These are wines that are minimalist approach, which I know is a term people are selling in California with cute labels and bunnies. And they're like, Europe's like, we've been unfiltering our wines for centuries. Like, what's going on? Skin contact for centuries. We thought you guys wanted clear wine, right? You know, it's like the Rodney Dangerfield over here, you know. So, but what's great about this winery, as I said, you know, the vines aren't super old. This was a former banker. This was a banker in early 2000s, and it was one of these guys that I couldn't imagine having that conversation with my wife or kids, and just be like, you know, I'm totally going to quit my day job and move to Sardinia and start a winery. But he did. He knew the potential, and his first vintage was in 2012, and he sought out Kermit Lynch, and you know, they just instantly kind of bonded. You know, the team that seeks out new ventures in Italy, and this one right here was one of the best that they had tried from Sardinia. They actually, you know, he felt like this was one of these people, you know. And I can't say this maybe for all bankers, maybe all lawyers, but there's great lawyers and bankers that are honest. This is that very honest banker that's like, hey, Danny, we're going to be doing business for 30 years. You're going to be seeing me on the grocery store and the gas station. I'm going to do you right. I'm going to say honest bottle of wine. It might be 10 to 15%, maybe more than the guy down the road, but guess what? You can take a shirt. We washed our hands before we made it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, this bottle way over delivers. You know, this isn't the cheapest bottle that we're doing tonight.
And we've done more expensive bottles before, and we sold some. But I mean, this is something.
This is one that even at that price, this wine is over delivering for the price. I mean, we've had some high end Cabernets out of California. We've had some, you know,
like big Spanish reds,
some
Oregon Pinots,
over $50. This over delivers for the price,
guys. While you're drinking the Jans, you know, maybe you go into the Patrimonio. This is the wine, as Danny said. Go ahead and open it, get some air into it. Yeah. And probably as an aside, maybe we should talk about this at some show, but I'll just take a brief 30 seconds here. But decantation. People always ask me, TC, should I decant? When should I decant? What should I decant? Ultimately, as a general rule, when I say decanter, first of all, the vessel in which you decant is different. So typically those very big ones that are, you know, sort of pretty to look at, but that are very vase-like, that people, just about everybody has, they think of decanter. That's the one I always say for your newer wines, your 2017 Napa Cabernets, your 2019, you know, Cannonau's, wines that ultimately most of us are going to drink young within 2, 3, 4 years. Throw that bad boy in that decanter because you're looking for surface area. But if you're talking about a 1986 or a 1976 Cabernet for Napa, that in that big wide surface area will go bad very, very quickly. I mean, the by the time you go back an hour, it's dead. It's like vinegar, right? So when you think about a vessel, you want to have like a pitcher, almost like one of these water serving pitchers you see in like restaurants that are very, very tall. So what you want to do is ultimately let the sediment pour it from the sediment and what things that might be in the bottle, but you're pouring it back into a pitcher in which to serve it ultimately that doesn't have much surface area, aka almost like a bottle of wine, versus like a big sort of pitcher type situation that most people think of a decanter that you'd want to have for younger wine. And that goes for even like whites, or even sometimes people even say champagnes, but older wines, typically speaking, yes, decant more so for sediment, but decant in those bigger, taller receptacles. I can tell you right now, you'll be rewarded for that. So we'll talk about, we'll have a whole episode of decanting and find some old wines. Maybe I'll hit up a few of my suppliers. We'll get a few maybe reserve or a few library wines that they're holding on to that aren't reserved to your pricing. I'm thinking Spain and a few other areas, and maybe we'll have a whole decanting class and maybe have a few. That'd be fun.
Let us know in the comments below if you would like to do a decanting class. Learn more about how to decant.
Well, I mean, in restaurants too, if I can use the, as Danny's glass here. So typically speaking, in restaurants, lower it a little bit. So a server would have, or the sommelier would have, Danny's glass would be a little candle. And so typically when you're decanting, you want to have that over, because most restaurants are very, very dark. And so when you're pouring, the idea is to see the sediment in the bottle. So maybe we even have like a little class, and most people have iPhones now, but the old school way is to put the candle, pour it, and typically speaking is just to twist or turn the bottle and leave that last little skosh in there, because ultimately it's just so much sediment. It's not going to hurt you. It's just more of a tactile thing. I know we had a dinner recently where a few of you got a little bit extra of that, which is fine, totally okay. Some of you love it. I actually have a few people that just eat on wine crystals.
And again, Scott's watching.
And that's a true sign of a natural wine. People, when you see the wine diamonds, guys, that is like you should be happy.
The wine diamonds.
You see wine diamonds, you should love it. I've had customers before eat it like literal crack. I'm like, dude, that's not crack. It's like wine. I love it. I'm like, well, it's like bone marrow. It's not everybody's thing, but
I believe Scott uses it to put it on his steaks.
The diamonds.
Right, he says, rub it in, and it becomes like its own
fancy.
Fancy.
That's what we should do. We should curate wine. I mean, but it's like a pearl. It's like you take so long to get and curate, but so it's like caviar. That's why it's so expensive, because it takes so long, and once you harvest it, it's like it's harvested, right?
It's harvested. Can you imagine that rubbed on a nice steak?
Oh yeah, I can't. Well, I'm waiting for the invite. So I haven't had the invite.
All right, okay, we'll work on getting the invite.
Maybe we'll do a show from Scott's, maybe Scott's Steakhouse.
There we go. Here it is. Here it is. Save the sediment to make a steak marinade. Look at that. See, I told you. That's
what I need to do. Just what I need to do.
Yeah.
Never thinking. So that's I always keep the freezer bag. I have the freezer bag full of odds and ends for the broths and stuff like that. But never think to save the wine diamonds. I need to have a separate bag for the wine diamonds.
Wine diamond bag.
There
you go. Well, Michelle asked what everybody was drinking tonight. So Kevin Smith's
there you go. Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, the Vegas Sedona. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that.
You know what? Funny, we actually almost we got this in the shop, a new Tempranillo.
Yes.
So
and just as a preview, Kevin, he doesn't know it. I'll be telling him probably in about 15 minutes that when I see these guys this week, Vega just came out with a new Grenache, about the same price. I want to have the sample bag. I know these guys are going to love it because that's a Jorge item. It's a great price point. So that might be coming to either a shop or maybe a show or an Andy email or something near you sometime soon.
And we can get you more of that Chardonnay, Kevin, if you need it. Because it is really, really good. Barb drinking a little rosé. So it's rosé season. Did you get some for Mother's Day, Barb? Because that's, a dozen rosés is a good way to make mom happy this on Mother's Day. Hope everybody had a happy Mother's Day this past Sunday. A
Hillsborough Cabernet.
Yeah. Look at that.
I love, Sonoma. And one little side note about Sonoma Cabernet. I don't know if you guys know, because TC's always dropping factoids here. For every one bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon produced in the county of Sonoma, which is 3 times the size of Napa, for every one bottle in Sonoma, there is 18 bottles of Cabernet in Napa. Wow. So that just shows you how small and not as ubiquitous, right? You bringing it back.
He's using his words.
Bringing
He's
it
using
back.
his words.
Muga, look at
Muga,
this.
Rioja, yummy.
I just got some more rosé just landed. I tasted these guys a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was in Andy's DL email. It's
I
on the
was
website right now.
I was like, oh, we're out, because I had a few people try to reorder. So if you guys want to reorder, we were out for a second. I don't know if Andy may have tried to reorder, but if you guys need some more, let us know. 2020 is here. And Houchard Rosé coming soon. So that's a big one.
We love the Houchard Rosé coming soon. And Michelle, you won the wine from TC, and that's you.
Yeah.
You were the winner.
See us off-site, off-camera. We'll talk. We'll get you something.
We will get you something. And I know I'll preface TC on what you don't like.
Okay.
So I already know.
out.
So we'll get you something that falls in the line of stuff that you like. So
she doesn't like Manischewitz. Manischewitz comes in a screw cap. Right?
It does.
It's not Stelvin, but it's like
yeah. Well, let's go over this really, really quick. Again, we just finished the Cannonau, which is Grenache from Italy. Really good in Sardinia. And I'm going to look at this. I got to do this because
it's just drinking totally different right now, isn't it?
So good. No, it's not the cheapest bottle on the show, but it is definitely
only from
really,
3
really
acres,
good.
guys. 1.5 hectares on this wine. Newer vines, but it is, again, such a remote, kind of unforgiving area. Not only being an island, but by a river right there as well. So you think of just being able to really regulate the vines and regulate the temperature. I got to say, guys, for 30, I wouldn't say this, for 32 bottles, I would put this against other flavor profiled Grenache based anythings that easily are 20 some odd dollars. I'm talking about shutting up the pops. Yeah. I'm talking about in terms of the complexity and the because it's so different. It's so unique, you know. That's what maybe I should do a skosh of this since we're going to talk about this next. Man.
Yep, little skosh. Whoa. Almost lost
Danny
the bottle.
loves it so much he wants to do a little mazel tov.
Yeah, mazel tov. The domain
the
Giacometti. I know it sounds Italian, but it's French.
Yeah, the Patrimonia. Well, in this area, again, you know, guys, being an island is as technically part of France, but it's certainly Corsican first, much like parts of Italy that are alla Siciliana first or Sardinian first. It basically has its own culture, its own language. I mean, if it could, it'd probably have its own currency in its own country, but they kind of like the protection and money from France. Money from France. But I will say they are making some very, very unique wines from, you know, again, these indigenous, shall we say, grapes. When you think about Corsica being almost in the heart of the Western Mediterranean in the history, that island's been conquered and been seen upon and been like the stopover for how many conquerors over the centuries and millennia. Right? So think about the grape varietals that have been taken and passed through and planted. This is the grape that really no one can think about. Is there another origin from? I mean, they think maybe it has origins in Italy. Who really knows? But there's nowhere else in the world that's growing this varietal other than this area in Patrimonio.
Delicious.
Beautiful.
It is delicious. Got it down to 28 plus your club discounts. Then we went to the Nautilus. We're going in reverse order here, but this is the Nautilus from Marlborough, New Zealand. Absolutely yummy Sauvignon Blanc from 2020. This is the newest vintage, and it's here. And you can have it for 15 plus your club discounts if you're in the wine club. Really, really good deal for this wine, especially because it drinks way above the $15 price point.
And ageable, guys. I'll go ahead and say this. How many $15 wines do you know you can age for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years? This is something I'll go ahead and say, buy 2 or 3, 4 bottles. You know, I mean, again, you know, you think about 30, 40 bucks, whatever. Take a bottle or two. Trust me, because at the end of the day, if in 5 years the wine's really bad, which I don't think it will be, if you think it really is, at the end of the day you spent $15 versus 50 or 60 bucks. But I'm telling you guys, you're gonna be wishing more so, not that the wine's bad, that you bought a 6-pack or whatever else. Because I'm telling you guys, this is a beautifully aged Sauvignon Blanc that takes on these tertiary flavors that is just like, it's like the 40 of wine. Once it ages, you kind of get this extra layer of like ginger and stuff like that. It's beautiful wine. This is really scallops or oysters, please, with that wine all day long.
All day long. And then we started with some bubbles.
The jams, mate.
From
Tasmania.
Tasmania.
Really down under.
Yeah, Tasmania. This little devil will only set you back $23. And I'm going to tell you right now, for bubbles that we've done on the show, pound for pound, price for price.
Jan's can compete.
Way over delivers. We've drank stuff that's $30 and $40, and I think this drink's
this is
right there with
this
them.
is something, guys. Ultimately, and I don't know a ton about boxing, but I'm about to make a boxing analogy. They often say the middleweights are the best. They say pound for pound boxers. Certainly, the big guys are fun to look at because they're big and they hit big. And the smaller guys, I mean, they may be more athletic, but ultimately, the best fighters are in that they call the middleweight. This is that Marvin Hagler, that Roy Williams, whomever that can fight in like 6 or 7 weight classes and win the title. I mean, it really can. I mean, I think this can quite frankly compete with almost any of the big house non-vintage champagnes on the market today. I'll take the Pepsi Challenge right now. It's a beautiful, beautiful wine.
Beautiful, beautiful wine. Down to 23 plus your club discounts. Only 7 bottles, so don't sleep on this.
And the rosé is available as well. Same
yeah.
price
So
as well.
if I run out of this and you want the rosé or you want to try the rosé as well, just put it in the comments below, and I will definitely order that for you. So just say the Jan's rosé, and I will make that happen. Again, remember. Use your coupon code for your club level discount, Cellar Estate Reserve, and Reserve works for both the Grand Reserve and the regular Reserve. All wines will be available at or ordered tonight for pickup on Wednesday. Wednesday will be the day for that. And a couple events up on the shop, up on the site as well. Next Monday will be a live show, live in the wine shop at the Loaded Grape. You could be a part of that audience. It's $12 for non-members, $10 for members. You'll be tasting along with us.
Maybe give us some comments of what you guys want to see. I mean, we've been thinking about talking about some wines to do, but ultimately, we're here at your liege, guys.
Yeah.
So, you guys know who you are. You know who the loyal fans and followings are. So comments or email Miss Vanna or Danny or Andy or whomever, and let them know what you guys want to see and taste, and we can find some cool stuff.
Yeah. Also in the event category, there's a few spots left for our wine and cheesecake pairing on Sunday. Also just added another South African wine tasting with Elephant's Corner. They have a new container coming in at the end of the month. These are all new rosé, a couple new reds. It's going to be a really, really cool event. And then also a duckhorn tasting for Dad. So treat Dad to a duckhorn tasting. The regional rep will be there at the shop. It'll be a sit-down tasting where they'll talk through all the wines and the history and everything about each one of those bottles. It'll be a lot of fun, a nice little high-end wine tasting for you folks. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you could be a part of our live audience or want to be a part of our live audience for next week. So, we were trying to keep the show nice and tight today, not go too long, and I think we've done that. So thank you so much for tuning in and participating and telling us everything you're drinking and watching and chatting with each other. So TC, you wanna sign us off?
Yeah, guys. Well, again, thank you so much. As always a fun show. Show number 60, 70, something like that. I'm not even sure.
So many of them now.
Here for you guys as always. Love doing this. It's always a nice little fun little Monday. So for Vanna, for Mr. Danny, aka Mr. Spaz, and for TC, guys, keep on tasting.
Keep on tasting. Cheers.
Cheers.
See ya.